Hey guys, I'm excited to be with you for another day. I am doing something I'm a little bit nervous to do. To be totally honest with you, I almost canceled on you guys today. I had an interruption to my day, a little bit of a funny story, which I will tell here because it's a private group. Um, so, two like Tuesdays are my most productive day in business, and I have all of my live meetings on Tuesdays, and but they don't start until a little bit later in the afternoon. And so today I was just so enjoying like my new routine. I went for a really long walk and I'm in my Bible and blah blah. And I had put off the notes for today. I get a call. My husband has um, lost his key to his car in the car. You know it's in the car, but you can't find it. Anyway, so he did find it, but not before I had to drive out to Portsmouth and give him his spare key. So anyway, it took me about 2 hours, and so I am now I'm behind, but I'm super pumped to be here. And I really wanted to do something a little different. And I apologize. I'm trying to find a little setup to where I can see the comments, right? So that's what I really would like to be able to see. So, anyway, so today we're talking about God's promises for women and why we might not claim them, right? So it's an important facet. I feel like a important facet of faith because I feel like the only promise that we're willing to stand on as Christians is the promise of salvation, right? And I don't want to poo poo on salvation, right? That's a pretty incredible promise. It's an exchange, right? It's an eternity. I'm most looking forward to eternity, right? I know I'm going to have a long life on this earth. I don't even know how I know that, but I know that I am. I'm not going to see my brother for a long, long time. Sometimes that makes me sad, but one day I will see him again. And so I'm just like, um, you know, I'm grateful for eternity, but I feel like we fall short of of the promises that we can claim in the land of the living, right? We talked a lot about this in the last several weeks, and so I don't know why this is for us. I don't know what the holdup is, although it's all on us, right? The promises are there for us to claim, but we also don't want to be like foolishly claiming stuff. And so I just wanted to kind of get real with you guys. A few of you guys did write in, which I was so incredibly grateful for. And so I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that, right? So I want to talk a few like promises for women, and then we're going to get into why we might not claim them. So if you're here live, I'd love for you to write a comment. Just let me know you're here. But Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and don't lean on your own understanding. And in all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." That's a great promise, right? We are constantly overwhelmed with choices and decisions. Like, to know that God is ordering our steps, I find that's a great promise for women. Romans 8:28, which we're going to dive into in more detail later on, is, and we know that in all things, right, in everything, God works for the good of those who love Him, right? That's us. For those who love Him and who have been called according to His purpose. Guys, that's us, right? And it says, so we know all things work together for our good. And so that's a great promise. Isaiah 53:5 says, "By His stripes we're healed." We don't really usually claim that very often. 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Cast all of your anxiety on Him because He cares for you," meaning He can take it, He will take it away. So, what keeps us, and there's a million promises, right? But what keeps us from claiming these promises? And so, I just wanted to um, share a few that came in, right? And they were confidential, both of them. So I'm not going to share a lot of details, but we're going to get really real with it. So the first thing is, what keeps us from claiming these promises in our real life, in the things that matter most to us, the things that worry us the most, the things that consume our minds and hearts and souls. Like, why don't we trust? Why aren't we claiming promises in that department? And the first one is, I'm having a hard time trusting God with the things that I'm still trying to control, right? They're too important for me. And the question is, can I trust God with these things, right? Can I trust God's plan for my and my family's future? And I want to go back into the promise of Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, every single thing, God works for the good of those who love him, that's us, and has been called according to his purpose. So the God of all creation is going to work all things for our good, right? And so this is one heck of a promise, right? But I want to be honest with you guys, right? We all know people who have had outcomes in their life, Christ followers sold out to the Lord, who have had outcomes that we find unacceptable. Yeah. So we hold on. These outcomes are unacceptable. We keep trying to control. Listen, guys, my mom lost her son, right? We never imagined that happening. And some people, we lost him in a motorcycle accident. Like, some people might think, how could you not have imagined it? Because he always survived. If you know my brother's story, geez, he always survived, right? And so, my mom lost her son. That's unacceptable. We know people who have prayed for healing, and then they'll like change their wording at the funeral. It's like, oh, and now in death they're healed. No, unacceptable when we really care, unacceptable when that person's close to us, right? This is not what we're hoping for. So we have a hard time, right? Why don't I claim the promise that everything's going to work out good for me? Because I'm still trying to control. There are certain things I'm unwilling to accept. Matthew 6:33 says, listen, don't worry. Don't ask about things like, what do we eat, or what should we drink, or what are we going to wear? Because even the people who don't believe in God run after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. So seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things are going to be given to you as well, right? All of these things include the things we worry about, right? Our kids' careers, our kids' marriage, our own health, our finances, our own career, our own marriage, like all these things, right? And the Bible's saying all things are going to work out for those who love the Lord. That's us. And then it says, listen, don't even worry about those things. Your Father knows you need them. And if you will seek him first, if you will seek him, then all of these things will be given to you, right? So I want to ask you a few questions. Like, number one, like, are you seeking God, or are you seeking God plus, right? God plus our own human control, God plus chemo, God plus whatever, right? Fill in the blank, right? Because a lot of times we'll say, I trust you, God, but I'm also trying to like help you out. I'm doing all things in my power, right? And so I just want to ask you, if you have something that's burdensome, really burdensome, and you are having a hard time claiming God's promise that it's going to work out for you, I want to ask you, like, what do you think trusting God would look like? Right? I just want you to explore it. It doesn't mean you got to like make your son move out, or cut off all financial ties, or move out from your marriage, or whatever. It might just mean that you choose to worry less, right? I'm going to get to the bad part, like when things, the unacceptable stuff. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But for right now, when you're having a hard time claiming to the promise that God's got this, then it's like, what would it like? Just journal it out. If I trusted God in this, what would that look like for me right now? Right? What would it look like? I'll tell you a quick story about my son, and it might pale in comparison to what you're talking about. But he moved out. He graduated from college. He went to Raleigh. That job did not work out the way we had hoped. He had success there, but he came home soon. He had quit. He felt really bad about quitting. Is still in training. But it was just not for him. He came home. It was a lot more emotionally for him to come home and start living at home. And he had his own apartment in Raleigh. It was like a really bad transition time. He had this interview for one of his top 2 target companies that he had when he graduated from college. He got the interview. They called him a unicorn. They said he was guaranteed another interview, and they basically like pretty much guaranteed him the job. And so he waits, and then he doesn't get the call back. And so he calls back, and it's like this long thing. Weeks later, he finds finds out that the person who interviewed him was fired. And then a couple weeks later, it was like, so they're like, oh, we still got a place for you. Like, we've heard about you, blah, blah, blah. And then the main guy calls back and says, I'm so sorry. Like, all the positions are filled. Like, he's so dejected. It was like such an oppression in our house, like the depression and the dejection, and now we got to start all over. And it was like, oh, and he turned down, he had two target companies when he graduated from college. He turned down one position because for this other position, both, he was offered two positions. He turned down the one with his equal target company in favor of this other one. And the next day he found out they had filled, they were not going to make that room for him. Oh my gosh. And I remember like, I just like gave it to God, right? I'm like, Lord, this is too heavy for me to bear. I cannot fathom how this happened, like how all these things work together, but in the opposite way, not for our good. Right. So I was like, I was so like, I was just like, I'm so done with this heavy, like trying to encourage my son and trying to keep this up and trying to help him with his job search. It was just like too much. Right. And I know these are first world problems, but I just want to tell you, like, I just had decided I wasn't going to like, maybe people say I'm gonna need to stop babying my son or whatever. I just was like, I had to give the worry to God. That was what trust looked like for me in that moment. And I said to my husband, I said, man, I just have to give this to God. It is too heavy of a burden to bear right now. I just can't bear it. And then like 90 seconds later, CJ walked back in the room. And when I gave it to God, I said, God, I have to give this to you. It's too heavy for me. You're going to have to take this. And I said, like, you're going to have to open doors that nobody else can open, Lord. That's it. Like, that's it. That was the prayer. It was like nothing fancy. It was like, I need this and I can't carry it anymore. And then I told Chris about it. And then like 90 seconds later, CJ walked in the door and he said, I got a call from this guy who's from the company. And he said, son, please tell me you don't have a job. And he's like, I don't. And he's like, I can't let a candidate like you go just because I don't have an open position. Anyway, he started that job yesterday. So he's moved out. He's out of my mom, out of his mom and dad's, our house. He's in his own apartment. It just worked out. And the only thing I could do, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't fix anything. All I could do in that moment, what would trust look like? Give it to God. Like, not that I would never pick it up again, but it was just like, Lord, I'm giving this to you. So I want to go deeper a little bit into like worse things than like just a career move, right? So, but one thing for you, if you're having a hard time, grabbing hold of God's promises because the stakes are too high, right? The stakes are too high. The first thing is like, what does trust look like, right? It doesn't mean you're kicking anybody out. It doesn't mean you're leaving your marriage. It doesn't mean like whatever. It might not mean those things. It might just mean I'm going to give it to God for today. Hey, I might pick it back up tonight, but I'm going to give it to God for today. Let me rest. Let me go to that stronghold. Let me just say, God, for 6 hours, I'm giving this to you, right? And then and then we can redecide in 6 hours, right? So that might be what trust looks like for you. But I want to talk about, can you trust God with the unthinkable? A lot of times we hold on and we never experience the peace of God and we never see the miracles of God because we are holding on, because the truth is, I can maybe trust him in my finances, but I can't trust him in the unthinkable, right? And I'll tell you, like, I have never been as low or as devastated or as disappointed, shocked, like in pain as I was that first year after losing my brother. And I experienced a low that I had never even considered a possibility, right, in my life. And I can tell you, and I got a few verses, but like God was so close in those moments, right? And I was carrying grief of myself, right? My parents, my daughter who lost her father, but I can tell you that God was so close to me, and in the unthinkable moments, in the unacceptable moments, right? And I can, like, Psalms 34:18 is a promise. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I was crushed in spirit. Psalm 147:2, the Lord heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Absolutely true. Proverbs 18:24, there is one who sticks closer than a brother. Isaiah 43:2, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flames will not set you ablaze. And Psalms 46:1, God is my refuge and my strength, a present help in times of trouble. I can tell you that God Himself met me in my lowest moments, in the unacceptable circumstances. God sat with me, He held me, He bound up my wounds repeatedly. And if I could not give testimony to about any of God's other promises, I can stand on that promise, right? God is close to those in those circumstances that are unacceptable. So today, I can say that when it comes to Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things, everything we're worried about, every situation, in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who've been called according to His purpose, which is us. I just want to say, like, if you're a mother, right? Like, what's the bigger miracle? Honestly, my brother literally raising from the grave and joining us at Thanksgiving, or my parents learning to live with joy again because I'm a mother. And the bigger miracle is a parent learning how to live again. And I watch that miracle every day. My mom is not the same, but she is living again, right? And so, still, when we hold on to like our unwillingness to give something completely over to God, when we're trying to control, the question we're asking is, can I trust God with my future? And what we're really asking is, what guarantees will God give me, right? What guarantees will God give me? Can I be assured, right, that I'm never going to walk out when my parents are walking out? Can I be assured, am I guaranteed that my future will not have more of this level of pain? And the truth is, that answer for all of us is no, right? I have no guarantees that I'm going to be spared a certain pain or grief or situation. But the answer is, can I trust God with my future? And that answer is yes. And no matter what happens, can I trust God with my future? I don't say that lightly, right? I'm a mother, right? A mother-in-law, a grandmother, a daughter. But I know that my God will be with me. He will stand in the flames. He will pick me off the floor. He will mend my broken heart repeatedly when necessary, right? He will not abandon me. He will not fail me. He will not leave me. He will not waste my tears. He will not forget to turn my mourning into dancing. He will not be mocked by His promises for His people. Also, He will not treat me, and He will not treat you as one of many. He will see you in your heart, right? In that first year, I began asking God for things that He granted me, right? I've seen God work in ways that were so meaningful to me, but may not have any bearing on another person. Like we talked about Peter, right? And how when Jesus, the resurrected Jesus, came, he used that same miracle to minister to Peter, right? Just that one person, and He'll do the same for all of us, right? So the answer for you might be, what would trust look like in this situation? What would trust look like today? And right now, it might not be, I'm making some big like stand and I'm kicking this person out and I'm never doing this again. It might just be, God, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave this worry at your feet for 6 hours or for 1 hour, whatever you can do, right? I'm going to leave it there, Lord. I'm going to trust you with it because I can trust you with my future, right? Because no matter what, it will work out good for me. And it might also look like asking God to build your faith, right? God is never intimidated or offended or appalled by our lack of being able to trust for the impossible. We just don't want to cover it, right? Like just say, God, listen, here's where my struggle is, right? Here's where my struggle is. And it's just like the father who's like, Lord, I believe, help me with my unbelief. I want to believe more, build my faith, right? That it can be that, right? God will always meet us where we are. The second issue that came in, or like why we don't, our hesitancy to like claim promises, and this has come in a couple different times, and it really, I feel like, stems from religion and like not Jesus, not the Bible, but religion, right? And so, religion can sometimes with actual words, right? Like say that we're weak and that we're worthless, we're worth nothing, that we're just like these despicable sinners waiting to be saved by faith, right? And so that can keep a lot of people from reaching out to God, because who wants to reach out to someone who thinks you're despicable, right? And so I just want to talk about that for just a second, because anybody who can say that you are weak without the Lord, it's not so much that, it's that you're not going to be able to do superhuman things without the Holy Spirit, right? It's the opposite is actually said in Scripture. We're not weak, we're wonderful, right? And so Genesis 1:26 and 27 says that God created us in his own image, right? In his own image, male and female, he created them. Guys, this is good news. We weren't made in the image of a weakling with no potential and power of our own. Guys, we were made in God's image. Psalm 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. We were intentionally knit together in our mother's womb, guys, not because to make us like pitiful, right? We're not because, God was going to create this inferior race of people. We are the best of his creation. Ephesians 2:10 says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, to do amazing things. Guys, we look at the creation, other things that God created, and he did. The sunset, the beautiful trees, the way the wind is just perfect, right? Even amazing, powerful rainstorms, right? And we're like, man, that's God's handiwork. Guys, we are above all that. We are above all that. We were created, we are God's handiwork. We were created to do amazing things. Proverbs 31 says her arms are strong for the task. So we were not created weak. In our weakness, God's strength is made perfect. That's the Bible verse. I can't remember what it was. That's true, right? Because when we say, God, I can't, but you can. When we say, God, this is beyond me, then that's when we become superhuman, correct? Not because we should never walk around or be taught by a church or a religion that we are weak, worthless, and just pitiful, right? These are just not true things. And I just want to apologize, really. Like we were created strong, worthy, obviously, full of potential, full of human power, right? We were created deliberately to do amazing things on this earth. In Genesis, it says we were created to rule and have dominion over the entire earth, right? We were created in the image of the Creator. So any church or religion that is giving the message that we're pitiful, right? That we can do nothing apart from Christ. That's just not true, right? You look at people who are absolutely not Christ followers and they are doing amazing things because God, they too were made in God's image, right? We can do better things on this side, on the land of the living, if we partner with a living God, right? But we were made worthy and strong and capable by God's design, right? He didn't make us in his image, but the most pitiful, no, or the most weak. He did not create humanity for a codependency, correct? That's not a thing. That's not a thing. That is religion. That is somebody who is, I don't know. I don't understand that. I think that, I don't know. I don't want to say that. Sometimes we hear things through a lens that was never meant to it was never meant to be through that lens, if that makes sense, right? So I was raised to feel capable, smart, accomplished, able, like that's how I was raised. So I never saw religion, like if I had heard, and I have heard like we're weak, we're despicable, like, and like to be totally frank, like some of the songs that we sing at my church, right? It's my church is very, very, very conservative, red carpet, and I love the pastor, but it's very like the songs are kind of like, and I don't know the lyrics. They're old school. They're, but they have that like, I'm weak, I'm nothing without you, and it's like, nah, 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 nah. Like, all of us are God's handiwork, right? Even the people who reject the Lord are God's handiwork. They were not made worthless. They were not made inferior, right? Like, they just haven't partnered with the living God. So, so if that is keeping you back, right? If it's like, if that's keeping you back from selling out to the Lord, just sell out, because that's religion. That's not God. And Jesus really railed against religion. The in the Bible, like the times when Jesus was furious, the most furious, the when you saw him really rage, it was not against like people who were seeking him. It was against the religious, right? The religious who were speaking for him, the religious who were condemning people, the religious who were, had this air of like, of control, essentially, right? And so I just throw that out to you guys. I don't want anybody to not claim any of God's promises. That the Bible says that we will see amazing things in the land of the living. We don't have to wait until we are, ushered into heaven, right? We can see amazing things now. We can be given a peace that passes all understanding. I've experienced it. I've seen other people experience it. We can trust God in the circumstances that are unacceptable. We can trust God in the circumstances that are burdening us. We can claim these promises, and the deeper we go, the more childlike faith that we have, I believe, the less we try to rationalize it out, the more we say, no, God said it. God said it. I'm claiming it. I'm not claiming a God plus. I'm not claiming a promise plus all this other stuff. I'm saying, God, you said this, and I'm sticking to it. And that's my prayer. Lord, you remind me, let me remind you, you promised this, then I am going to, I believe we're going to see more miracles. I believe that we are going to see more peace regardless of the circumstances. And so for you, when you're looking at whatever the promise is, maybe ask, what does trust look like? Right? And then ask God to build that faith. And if you are coming to the Lord, coming back to the Lord, as some of you guys said, then I love that, man. I love that God is like wooing you, right? Seducing you, pulling you forward, pulling you towards him. This is God's way. This is God's way. And let me tell you, if I think the church collectively, we need to start standing on more promises, because if the only promise is salvation, and I'm not poo-pooing on salvation, right? It's huge. It's the best one. But like, if that's it, then we are not drawing other people, right? We're not drawing other people to us if we're miserable, if we're rotten to the core, if we're afraid all the time, if we're like easily scared and controlled, if we are, I don't know, insecure, if we're looking down, if we're feeling weak, guys, that's nobody wants any of that, right? We got plenty of that in the world. So we need to claim more of God's promises. And so we might go a little bit deeper in this in the next several weeks, but I'd love to know what came up for you and how I can prepare for next Tuesday. I appreciate you guys being here with me live, and I appreciate you guys who are watching the replay. I mostly appreciate you guys who messaged me and gave me the promises that you are hesitant to stand on. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great day. Bye.